in the morning. What a play.
Well, he does it in big games. Watch this play. 33-year-old Brooke Robinson.
The year is 1970. The Orioles have just won the World Series, and Curt Flood is about to change the game of baseball forever. Curt Flood was the left fielder for the St. Louis Cardinals in the late 60s. He played 15 years in the MLB and won 3 World Series on that team. He was an all-star player with a batting average of .293 who won the Golden Glove Award.
After 2 outs, Flood is up, with Maxfield still on third. Ron Borg pitches, Curt lines a single to center, and Maxfield scores the game's first run.
Curt Flood had always been the face of the St. Louis Cardinals, but after missing an important fly ball in the 1968 World Series, things began to go downhill. He asked for more money from his owners that they were not willing to pay, and after multiple contract disputes, he was traded to the Phillies with his teammates Tim McCarver, Byron Brown, and Joe Horner. In return, the St. Louis Cardinals received Dick Allen, Cookie Rojas, and Jerry Johnson.
Big League Baseball owners have maintained a grip on their players so strong that it has amounted to almost total control of their careers. Now that absolute power may be ending.
He went to the executive director of the Players Association, Marvin Miller, and told him he wanted to sue Major League Baseball.
You're a man who makes $90,000 a year, which isn't exactly slave wages. What's your retort to that?
A well-paid slave is nonetheless a slave.
With the help of the Players Association, Curt Flood's case went all the way up to the Supreme Court. He used the argument that baseball owners were not abiding to the Sherman Antitrust Act, a law created in 1890 to end the major oil and steel monopolies in America in the hopes of stimulating the economy by starting competition. However, the judge declared that the Antitrust Act did not apply for baseball.
The Supreme Court today rejected a suit by ex-outfielder Curt Flood.
At his trial, Jackie Robinson and Hank Greenberg testified for Curt Flood. However, no active players came to support him. Curt Flood was warned multiple times by friends, family, and even Marvin Miller that he was risking his career by suing the MLB. So it was no surprise to anyone that after playing just 13 games with the Washington Senators, his career came to a close. Although he lost his case, Curt Flood's actions influenced other players to take a stand for free agency.
Obviously, if you look at the verbiage of what he said at the time, he used the words, he didn't want to be enslaved by one team, owned by something.
As a black baseball player in the mid-1900s, Curt Flood faced a great deal of racism during his career.
What I really want out of this thing is to give every ball player the chance to be a human being and to take advantage of the fact that we live in a free and democratic society.
While playing for the Cincinnati Redlegs, Flood was not allowed to eat at the same restaurants as his teammates and could not use the restroom and gas stations his team went into. In the December of 1957, Curt Flood received a telegram from Cincinnati telling him that he had been traded to the St. Louis Cardinals. He was given a $5,000 contract to play in the 1958 season. Flood immediately accepted, and the rest was history. Pitchers Andy Messersmith and Dave McNally were the only 2 players still bound to their teams in the 1975 season. After the season, the players filed a grievance with the MLB and claimed that they should be given a free agent status. Baseball executives Marvin Miller and Joe Torre, along with pitcher Jim Bouton, testified on behalf of the 2 pitchers. Finally, on December 23, 1975, arbitrator Peter Seitz reversed the Supreme Court's original decision and declared that MLB players could become free agents if they spend 1 year on a team without a contract.
I
was in my 6th year of play in the big leagues, making $16,000, and my fiance was flying for American Airlines making $19,000. And then the Messerschmitt-McNally decision came down. Free agency was implemented in '76, and I went from making $16,000 in 1976 to making $60,000 for a year on a 2-year contract. I thought I was a millionaire. And that's when it had an impact, and we could really see that we had been shortchanged for a long time, and there was something that we could now do about it.
Teams could bid for players, and the players could choose to go to whatever team they wanted. Free agency not only gave players the right to leave teams, but it also increased their pay. In 1980, the average salary was $143,756. In 2015, the minimum salary was $507,500, which is still $350,000 more than the average pay was in 1980. This growth of salary can be seen increasing over 2,000% every decade. In 1989, Earl Hershiser had the highest salary of the 80s with $2,766,667. In just 20 years, the highest salary in baseball went from just over $100,000 to over $2.7 million. The raise in salary did not stop there. In 1998, Gary Sheffield had a salary of nearly $15 million. Then in 2010, Alex Rodriguez was making $33 million a year. Thanks to free agency, the maximum salary in baseball went from in the hundreds of thousands to the tens of millions, marking the end of baseball owners cheating players out of fair pay.
If you're a fan of a team, it's kind of hard to, you get used to seeing guys and you start to root for those guys, and they have a team that you feel like is going to compete, whether it's in baseball for a world championship or for a Super Bowl, and the next thing you know, the next year's team is really different.
After free agency was implemented in baseball, it began to affect other sports as well. Two prime examples of this are Deion Sanders and Bo Jackson, who played on professional teams in both football and baseball. Deion Sanders was a well-known cornerback in the NFL. During his 14-year football career, he played on the Atlanta Falcons, the Dallas Cowboys, the Washington Redskins, and the Baltimore Ravens. He was not only well known for playing in the NFL, but also in the MLB as an outfielder for the Braves, the Yankees, the Reds, and the Giants. In both sports, he played as a free agent, which allowed him to move from team to team at free will. Bo Jackson is a well-known Hall of Famer who spent his short but legendary sports career playing in 2 sports.
Well, he's just a strong young man, that's all, and like Mike says, he's just as nice as could be. There's bouncer right side. They got to hurry. We'll check the speed. There's the runner. They don't get it. Jackson going hard down the line, and he wasn't even close. There's his first major league hit.
In 1986, he signed on to the Kansas City Royals. From there, he went on to play with the Chicago White Sox and the California Angels, and even was the MVP of the 1989 All-Star Game. His legacy did not stop there. In 1987, Bo Jackson played in the NFL as a running back for the Oakland Raiders. On that team, he set a record-breaking 221-yard rushing game. Without free agency, Bo Jackson would have not been able to become the legend he is today. Without Curt, Andy Messerschmitt, and Dave McNally, Bo Jackson would have spent his entire career on the Kansas City Royals and would have not been allowed to play in both the MLB and the NFL. While his career came to an early end, Curt left behind him a legacy that even today has changed the way team sports are played. He will not only be remembered as a player, but as a man who sacrificed his career for the bigger picture.